Hello, this is Robin Barnes, the Songbird of New Orleans. Welcome to the 19th annual Satchmo SummerFest presented by Chevron and the Hilton Satchmo Legacy Stage. This event is produced by French Quarter Festivals Incorporated, a nonprofit organization showcasing New Orleans culture and heritage since 1984. This event is made possible through the sponsorship of community-minded organizations and the sale of Avita, Jack Daniels, Sonoma-Cutrer, Corbel, Tequila Herradura, Finlandia, Pepsi, Aquafina, Bubbly, Bayou Rum, French Market Cold Brew, Louisiana Iced Tea, and Festival merchandise, which helps pay for great entertainment, security, sanitation, recycling, EMS, and production costs. Please support your festival by purchasing from our beverage and merchandise booths. Do your part to keep the festival clean by using recycling and trash containers on site. And support our recycling effort by purchasing a reusable souvenir cup at our beer and cocktail booths. And please, enjoy responsibly. Special thanks to the Satchmo Legacy Stage contributors, Hilton, Harris New Orleans, Joseph K. and Inez Eichenbaum Foundation, Ella Fitzgerald Charitable Foundation, Barbershop Harmony Society, the Fertel Foundation, Richie and Vicky Norwegian, and Andrea Duplessis.
Close enough.
And thank you to all sponsors, including Chevron, Brown Forman, Abita Brewing Company, GE, Fidelity Bank, WWL-TV, Offbeat Magazine, and so many more. Pick up a schedule for a full listing of all performances, events, and the culinary lineup. Go grab a bite before the next act begins, and stop by the merchandise tent to purchase the official Satchmo Summerfest poster, shirts, and souvenirs. Enjoy the 19th annual Satchmo Summerfest presented by Chevron, and happy birthday, Louis Armstrong.
Yes, indeed. Happy birthday, Mr. Armstrong. Well, thank you all. This time, please turn off your cell phones and pagers if you have them. And this next gentleman deserves an award for being one of the hardest working show business people here at the festival, outside of the crew here. You did 2 presentations yesterday?
2 yesterday.
And we almost snagged you again for another one today.
I was
ready. Yes, he was. We know him and we love him. Yeah, make some noise for Mr. Riccardi.
Thank you. All right. Today's sermon. Louis Armstrong, in his own words, I'm calling it. God bless Louis Armstrong. If you know my day job, I'm in charge of the Louis Armstrong Archives at Queens College, where we have hundreds and hundreds of reel-to-reel tapes that Louis Armstrong made, basically so he could be in control of his own story. The man wanted to be heard. He wanted to be taken seriously. Because we are doing videos down here, I have culled together some of my favorite video interviews, but you can learn a lot from Louis Armstrong. And I think a lot of people still kind of take him for granted, and they try to read his mind or try to, guess his intentions. You don't have to do that. You just have to listen to the man. You can still disagree with him. We're going to hear him tell a few stories today. There's going to be some contradictory stories, some uncomfortable stories, but, he wanted his story out there the way he always said it was for posterity. The year before he died, he said, "My life is an open book. I've got nothing to hide." So today, we'll take a musical break. A lot of music coming tomorrow. And yesterday, those Timex shows. But today, we're going to hear the man, in his own words, talk about his life through various TV appearances. And one audio thing I pulled that I think, a couple of audio things that are really interesting. So we're in New Orleans. I don't think a day went by where Louis Armstrong did not talk about his early years in New Orleans. And one of my favorite interviews where he goes down that road comes from the David Frost Show. Anyone remember the David Frost Show? This is February 1970. And, we got a little bit of everything here. Waif's home and getting in trouble. And he mentions Joe Glazer. Look, I don't want to spoil it. This is Louis's time. So sit back, relax, and here's Louis Armstrong in 1970 talking about these early days in New Orleans.
Way back. When did you first play an instrument? That was in New Orleans, wasn't it?
When I first played an instrument, well, I was in the boys' waif's home, colored waif's home for boys. That was the name of the orphanage. And they knew I used to follow behind King Oliver in the parades, And quite naturally, when I went out there for shooting my stepfather's pistol, celebrating New Year's Eve, you know. See, around New Year's Eve, everybody, anything to get in their hand, they celebrate with it, you know. So I done found this pistol, got blanks in it, but the noise is what everybody gives you. So when I look around, the little guy was shooting a little old 6-shooter across the street there, you know. Die, 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 die. So I was singing a little quartet, and I used to go around and pass the hat, you know. And they called me Dipper at that time, Dipper Mouth, you know. They say, get him, Dipper. And I reached up there and got the zoom, breaking it up until that detective was hugging me. So, see, you can celebrate all you want if they don't get you. That's how. So when I got back there, they knew I was following behind King Oliver so much, so the little bugle boy went home, so they gave me the bugle and had me to learn the calls and, you know, taps and when they go to bed and mess call. And that was my favorite one, that mess call, you know. And I used to be devilish, and I'd hold it up sometime, you know, and the cats would, man, if you don't blow that call. So finally, the little kid in the band went home, so they gave me the cornet. Yeah. See, and they taught me Home Sweet Home and different things, and Mr. Peter Davis, who had the band, you know, there's 2 keepers, one that teach the music, then they had one that teach the kids carpenter and different things, Mr. Alexander, and Mr. Jones, he just come out the 10th Cavalry, the head man, he teach him how to drill with wooden guns and everything. See, I was ready the first war, because I knew all about shoulder arm and parade rest, and, you know, retreating and all that stuff. Well, anyway, so they put me in the little old band, you know, and in a month's time, they made me leader of the little old band. To show how fast I learned.
How old were you? What age were you when you...
13 years old, see. I stayed there till I was 14. And during that time, the little band used to go into the city and play and pass the hats around.
But that was a fantastic area for a young chap, because I mean there was the red light district,
the red light district, and everything.
Storyville and so on. What are your memories of that?
Well, I'm telling you, we wasn't allowed in the red light district, but boys 13 years old, you know what I mean, that sun down on them all the time, they look like old men. So all we had to do was put on long pants, they wouldn't know the difference. And that's how I got a chance to hear all the Monk Johnson, Manuel Perez, and all the best bands and everything. See?
They were all in the red light
district? Yeah, they all, each corner had a band, cabarets they call them, see? So in the honky-tonks later, when I got out, that's where I played in my neighborhood, where all the bad guys and what do you call those girls that walk the street, I don't know what you call. But they liked me because I was young, all right, but they liked the way I played the blues. And so I never did get in no trouble, and they protected me. The guys get to shooting and everything. Get out the way there, boy. You know, one of them things. Otherwise,
there was an actual real shooting?
Oh, yeah, real shooting, man. You think they was cowboys and Indians and stuff. Every Sunday morning, catch behind posts, boom, shooting and trying to get one another, you know.
Why did they do it on Sunday mornings?
Well, they've been up all night gambling and the girls working and everything, and everybody's stoned. And seems like they get their revenge before they go home, or if they get home or something.
Is that a good atmosphere for a musician?
Well, I thought it was lovely coming in. Well, you know, I got to love those people because they never tell me nothing wrong about life. You know what I mean?
What they told you about?
Well, I mean, say for instance, now the toughest guy in the honky-tonk that runs the gambling, you know, in the back room, and he knew I was getting ready to come up north when I was going to play with King Oliver and everything. And this is the pep talk he gave me. He said, look here, son, I like the way you blow that quail. He's talking about my cornet. I know what he's talking about. I said, yes. He said, now, you go up north and always have a white man behind you that said, that's my nigga. And I swear he put him to me. Now, you can figure that out yourself. And that's what the talk. And Joe Glazer came right in the scene.
What did
it was just like that. because he knew I wanted to blow my horn, and he saw to that. I didn't worry about in battles and just. Joe knew that if I didn't find him, I was going on back because I knew they loved the way I played my horn in that honky-tonk.
And what the guy was saying and giving you the advice was
that's the love he had for me. You go up there and blow that horn because I like the way you blow it, and everybody else better like it. That's the way he gave it to me. You understand?
Yeah.
And I mean, even when I was in the orphanage in this little band and went around my neighborhood, all them same old gamblers and hustlers, they asked Mr. Davis, the leader, said, can we pick up some money and put in the Louis Armstrong's cap? He said, yeah, it's all right. So they filled my cap with dollars and nickels, quarters, and everything. So when they got back to the orphanage and they counted that money, we had enough money to buy brand new instruments for the whole band. Went down to World Lines and outfitted the whole band just from that one collection on Liberty and Bonita.
What else would you say you learnt about life from those days?
Everything. Everything. Right from the rudimentals, because I didn't steal much, you know, no time. But the nicest things in their way, you know, it might sound cruel, but everything they said to me to the extent elevation. I could see the wrong in this guy. You take some and you leave some. It's just the way it was, and that's my life.
Take some, leave some.
Leave some. You know what I mean? It's good and the bad and different things like that. Well, I mean, I ain't gonna follow this guy, and I know he's wrong. You know? That's how I got in the orphanage, you know, trying to be a big shot with the kids, you know. And I know what I had no business with this pistol, but everybody, all the rest of the kids had pistols. So why shouldn't I have one, you know? Right, but if I don't run with those boys, I wouldn't even thought about it.
But you were the one that got caught.
And they followed the leader and no crazy things like that, you know. You're bad boys, kid. They go in a grocery store and you just going in there with him, but when you look around, that somebody's got a whole ham on his coat. Now you got to run too, you know. So that's what I mean, the environment, and finally I got away from all that.
At this
Yeah. So
when did you first play?
a lot to unpack there. The question of running the Louis Armstrong Museum in New York, you know, why is the museum not in New Orleans? You know, what's his relationship with New Orleans? I don't have to tell you guys. It's very, very complex. Armstrong leaves July 1922. He does not come back until the summer of 1931. And his first night on the radio, he was doing a show on the Suburban Gardens. There was a white announcer identified by Mr. Bjorn Barnheim as Charles Nelson, who refused to introduce Armstrong. And Louis, this was a very important moment for him. And again, just part of the parables of Louis Armstrong. In this next clip, he tells the story about his return in 1931. And he mentions how, at this point, he said he got northern-fied after he left New Orleans, and he forgot about a lot of that foolishness. But again, listen to the way he deals with this almost crisis situation, and always seems to find a way to overcome. This is from the Dick Cavett Show, also 1970.
I'm up, and we had a lot of fun there. Nobody got hurt.
Nobody got hurt?
No. You don't mess with them, they don't mess with you. You know what I mean? I didn't know anyone of them that personally, and they liked our music, and I was blowing them blues for them cats, you know.
Well, did you ever...
Well, we had some bad boys in New Orleans. Are you kidding? We had some boys just as tough as Al Capone's boys right there in New Orleans. When I was coming up selling newspapers, and they followed my life up, you know, from the time I left the honky tonks to come up north and blow. And I went down there in 1931 to play at the Suburban Garden. It was a roadhouse, and radio was just about 5 years in. And you never heard of no Spade playing on no radio in those days, just starting. And you know what the life was, all strictly au fait. 5,000 Negroes right on that levee. It was a levee, right by the levee. They listened to that music. See, now I'd been away about 9 or 10 years, and I done got northern fight. I done forgot about a whole lot of that foolishness down there, you know. So anyway, the night we opened, and I'm sure, man, and there's a place packing jam. It was owned by the Dalton brothers.
Were they
Yeah,
bad cats?
Yeah, they had gambling there and dig this.
Yeah.
So anyway, I think I was in Chicago anyway, go up to the mic and make my own announcements and different things like that, or the announcer bring you to the mic, and then you tell out, But this night, they done propped this man up to just a big deal. Now you bring on Louis Armstrong, he's a New Orleans boy, and blah, blah, blah. So I'm straight, all the boys said, this is nice. But a second before this cat had to go to that mic and bring me on, he walked away and said, I just can't introduce that nigga. Can't do it. So the Dalton boys want to wash him with him, you know what I mean? But anyhow, they come to me and told me what he says. I said, well, don't worry about it, I said, give me a card, boys. And I walked to that mic, and then, da-da, shim, and I walked to that mic. And before I opened my mouth, there's all the white boys that I was raised with, sitting up there, sharp, done got rich. Their fathers done left them the produce places and different things. They were, when we was kids, we'd hang around, and after school, we'd go out in the lots and play cowboys and Indians with old broken slates and things like that. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. We was the Indians. Oh yeah, we probably were. And I've stood there 20 minutes, and they hollering, Differ, Satch, blah, 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 blah. And when I went into pale moon shining, man, you thought the walls was coming in. And this announcer standing there, you say, well, I didn't know this would happen in the South, in New Orleans. It never happened before. So they fired him and everything, and I took over myself.
That's how it's done. That's how it's done. So, of course, by the 1950s, Louis is now Ambassador Satch. He's touring the world. He's more famous than ever. But he's still doing one-nighters. He's on the road 300 one-nighters a year. And he's still doing promotions. And so in 1958, he's passing through Pittsburgh. And he ends up on a daytime TV local Pittsburgh talk show. And this popped up a few years ago, and a lot of people haven't seen it. I think it's maybe the earliest surviving television interview. And he's so warm and so relaxed, but he's got some really pointed commentary on music, on success, when you become a band leader and all you think about is the box office. And also hinting about how he has no desire to retire. So the visual on this, it's a kinescope from local Pittsburgh television, but I still think it's kind of a fascinating little interview.
Our guest this afternoon is none other than Louis Armstrong. He is the personification of American jazz. He played his way up from the streets and the honky-tonks of his native New Orleans to become the greatest trumpet player on the contemporary scene, a performer known and loved all over the world. His concert tour of Western Europe in the fall of 1955 created such excitement that he became page one news and inspired Ed Murrow to devote a See It Now television show to the artist who won international goodwill for the USA, doing what came naturally. And of course, for Louis, it was blowing his horn in his own brilliant style. In Pittsburgh to open a week's engagement at the Twin Coaches tonight. He's about to visit with Florence Manson. Here's Florence now with her famous guest.
And here he is. Louis, I don't know, they call you Louis Armstrong, Satchmo, Satch. And out of respect, I feel that I think so much of you, I have to call you Mr. Armstrong. What'll it be?
Oh, it's all right. Call me anything you want. Don't call me too late to eat.
And this is lunchtime, too, not too late.
Yeah, I'm on my way to lunch, by the way.
Well, Louis, you've certainly, in these past few years, created a lot of musical excitement with these tours of yours abroad. I wonder how you feel about being called, you know, next to John Foster Dulles at Louis Armstrong these days.
Well, that's good. I mean, the jazz fans, that's the way they feel, you know, because in Europe, you know, that's a big deal. Over there, jazz is stronger than the Masons, you know, and hot clubs, and honorary president of all of them, and wherever we play, they come in, it's like they're going to a football game. You know?
And do you think that this enthusiasm for jazz in Europe is the reason for their great reception of you when you played over there in concert?
Sure. I mean, they have those records, every record I've made. And the minute I start blowing one, you know, there's hands and everything, you know.
And what about no problem as far as not speaking their language is concerned, Louis?
When we finish the concerts, we go to the hot clubs and the unions and sit in with the musicians there. We play Mustard Ramble the same. And we look at each other and just smile and blow. That's all. You don't need to talk.
Smile and blow, you don't have to talk.
No, yeah.
Oh, well, of course, it's been the greatest thing in the way of propaganda for democracy to send you to European countries because, you know, when he blows and they're with him, they think this must be a great country. Isn't that right?
That's the way we feel. I mean, even from the days of Storyville, I mean, the mind always the same in jazz. Like in Italy, we played one concert hall. And after the concert, I went over to La Scala and took pictures with them big cats like Woody and Wagner. They demanded that.
Those big cats.
Because we play from the heart.
Yeah. Well, this is one thing I know about you, that you do play from the heart. As a matter of fact, we were talking about you this morning here at the station, and some of the boys were saying that you sing the same way, that when you sing, it's more as though you were creating another instrument.
Sure, that's life. I mean, that's the way I always play. That's why my manager, he takes care of the band. He got them all on the contracts, and I'm the leader of the band and things like that, because so many years after musicians would get famous and they get him a band, and he forget about his public. He's watching the box office, trying to see how much come in, see?
But you don't.
No. If it's 2, we blow the same. 2,000 the same. You know?
I noticed you have your handkerchief with you.
Yeah, well, that's, you know.
Is that what you use it for?
Yeah. When we was in New Orleans and we were teenagers, you know, talking to a little chick in the corner or something with my brow. Yeah.
Has nothing to do with holding on to the trumpet,
Well,
then.
yeah, that's one, because when I get ready to mop my brows, see, I don't have to go in my pocket. It's right there.
I see. It's right there.
Keep it right there. See, the good trumpet players, you know, they keep the lips moist, a little stream like.
I
you
see.
know.
I understand you said something about the trumpet now, that you call your horn your boss.
Yeah, well, it is the boss. I mean, when it is in good humor, everybody's in good humor.
You sort of,
notes comes out.
Louis, you sort of think of the horn as being something outside yourself, don't you?
Well, I mean, the horn ain't gonna do you no favor. You got to do it right. That's why I appreciate it. You know, you can't say, well, I ain't gonna blow you good tonight. You know, so you better blow. Something gonna come out there ain't gonna act right. So I like to hear it too. So I know the other fellow gonna listen too.
So if you're playing to please yourself as well as the audience, no wonder it goes over.
You warm up at home, you got to be all right on the job. See, that's where all the new styles come from. The youngsters, they figure, oh, I can warm up when I get onto the job. They ain't checking on them jobs, you know. And when you get down there, everything's wrong. Cat calls and everything.
What about, you said the young ones. I think of how you had an opportunity in your era, and heavens knows you stayed with us a long while, to come up through, you know, the big name bands. Today the business is changing, the vocals, the thing, and the bands in the background. Where do you think the young musicians that will hit your caliber are going to come from?
Well, all that to do, like we did, we observed from the good old timers. You see what I mean? Well, let them figure well, I'm young, I can blow the horn loud, and that ain't the way it is. I mean, it's a certain amount of strategy, and how to preserve yourself, your health, and everything. See, I mean, there's B.A. Roth, man, in his 70s was playing octave high, and I didn't hear one youngster sing on the bottom when I was in New York in 1924. And I went home and next week came out with When You're Smiling. See the difference? That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, you always have
They observe a little. They figure because the musician's old, he can't show him nothing. That ain't the way to look at it.
Doesn't apply to you, does it, Louis?
No,
You're
that's
as
why
great
I'm-
today as you ever were.
Oh, I'm trying to get that middle valve out of second.
Still working, huh?
Yeah, man.
You don't think about retiring, do you?
No, you don't retire in music. When anybody retires, I think they're lazy, waiting for the day to die or something. No, no such thing as retiring.
Please excuse me.
Yeah.
Our time is up, as it usually is, and besides, we have a model waiting.
Oh, Shannon, I want you to meet Louis Armstrong.
Okay, Papa.
And all of us will want to see and hear more of Louis Satchmo Armstrong out at the Twin Coaches on Route 51 near Bell Vernon. He's going to be there all of this week. A great musician in our midst this week.
We got him covered.
Doing the promo circuit, yeah. But he said there, retirement, he was 57 years old at the time. He said retirement's for lazy people. He said that's when you're getting ready to die. But sure enough, come 1968, 69, Armstrong ends up in intensive care twice. And this time, the doctors basically force him to retire. They force him to stop playing the trumpet. He takes 2 years off, but by the summer of 1970, he is starting to get back into work. He always believed, of course, he was born July 4th, 1900, so that summer they had their big 70th birthday tributes, and he ended up in California where he sat down for a CBS TV interview, and the reporter makes the mistake of saying that Armstrong is not able to blow the trumpet, not knowing that Louis was practicing every night for 2 years, 30 minutes a night, waiting for the doctor to give him the approval, which he eventually got. But if you're used to the happy, smiling Satchmo, watch the knives come out. Watch the knives come out. And the confidence.
This is Jules Bergman, ABC at the Manned Spacecraft Center, Houston.
America's #1 jazz musician, Louis Armstrong, celebrated 2 events today. Independent.
Actually, that's the wrong clip, but hold on. I got you covered. That was from 1969 to 1971. Don't worry. Yeah, because we're going to focus on this for a little bit here. There's something about the tough Armstrong that people take for granted. Here he is in all his glory.
In addition to being the 194th birthday of the United States, today is also the 70th birthday of a man considered by many to be the greatest jazz trumpeter who ever lived. He's celebrating in Los Angeles, as CBS News correspondent Bill Stout reports.
A noisy airport welcome for the first in a series of birthday parties all across the country for the little man who blows the biggest horn, Louis Armstrong. At his side, his wife, Lucy. At the celebration, a talk with the birthday boy, known to musicians as Pops, whose doctor lets him sing and talk but tells him to lay off the horn.
How do you feel about not being able to blow?
I said I was not. I blow every day at my house. 1 hour before my.
But you aren't supposed to work.
Well, I don't have to work. I got enough money. I don't have to work. I play when I want. I just don't want. The doctor say don't do it, and I don't do it. But I can play. I can warm up 1 hour and go right back to work right now. But you don't have to do that. If he says no, that's no. Nobody else can. I don't care what they think. If they're not appreciating my singing, my biggest record is singing anyway.
Yeah.
That's right. I just had to. I don't want to be crude about it, but I didn't like the way you asked me.
I didn't mind that.
Not being able to blow.
I've enjoyed so much hearing you blow.
I breathe, I couldn't blow that on. Get right out of bed,
But why do you think when you talk about the other people who were doing all those things, why do you think you were so far ahead?
Ask the public. I don't know. I'm like Joe Louis. When they asked him, when did you think you'll knock that fella out? He said, when I signed up for the bout. That's what he said. I don't go and blow my shoulder, but I can listen to him. They listen to me, I listen to them. I tell them any 2 notes whether he's playing right or he ain't gonna play it right, but that's his business.
But there really haven't been many musicians in our time. I suppose Sir Thomas Beecham and the Beatles and Louis Armstrong, that's about it, who are world figures, and you are.
Well, okay, how about that?
Yeah, but how is it
strive for it? I wouldn't get it if it wasn't real.
How is it to live that way?
Well, what's wrong with it? I'm living the same every day. where I live, I mean, everything, my house is good, but I mean, you don't see me in no big estates and yachts.
No.
Well, that ain't gonna play your horn for you. But a lot of them do that. When they come from taking a walk around that estate, they're so damn tired they ain't got no breath to blow on.
So now I want to kind of focus on something a little different. In 1968, Lewis landed in England, and he did a long interview with the BBC, and they chopped it up and they used parts of it. But thanks to my connection, I have the entire raw audio. And so this is audio. It's a fairly long audio segment, but I like these kind of group scenarios. I mean, try not to check your phone. I put some nice photos up for visuals, but listen, the sound quality is miraculous here. But this is the very tough, very strong, very opinionated, but also very smart Armstrong, going 50 years of performance experience, talking about music, talking about jazz, talking about the Beatles. He goes back to the symphony orchestras, young people, King Oliver. I mean, he's on fire here. And so even though this is a pretty long audio segment, I think it's too important not to share. So again, this is from June 68. At the end, he references a 7-year-old trumpeter who's Enrico Tommaso. And you'll see a picture of young Enrico, but Enrico's still a fabulous trumpeter in England. So here we go.
Have you ever thought of changing your music?
No.
Changing your
Why should you change music? Mozart didn't change. Bach didn't change.
Some people call it progressive, Louis.
Well, what is progressive? You tell me, because all we play is good music. We never did worry about styles. Ain't no such thing as styles in music. Ain't but two kind, good or bad. That's all. Now that progressive and all that jiu-jitsu music and all that, you can have it. I'm not interested, because I get my applause for playing good. And in language, a note's a note.
Do you think then that some of these people that play today spend too much time in worrying about fantastic pieces to play and forget the simplicity?
I'm not interested. If I buy a record, it suits my taste, got the beat and the tone and what I like, that's all. I ain't worried about the fellas, what they ain't doing. That ain't my position. I got a lot of my personal worries. So I go by my ear, what I hear. That's why I buy records. Like the Beatles, ain't no record gonna top Hard Day's Night in my library, in my house. See what I mean?
You think that was the best?
It's like some people, you can tell the first joke and knock them out, and you come back with 100 more. They still remember the first joke. So that's my record, and ain't nothing gonna top that Hard Day's Night. Understand?
Sure, yeah.
So there you go. So I don't care what the other fellas doing. I ain't got time. Why should I? Anyway, I'm not booking them.
But is there any particular music that you like?
All music. I like all music that's good. I played in a symphony orchestra in 1925 for silent pictures, and we played everything you hear these big orchestras playing. Right there in the Vendome Theater in Chicago. And we changed programs twice a week with movies, and we play an overture. Then we go into the jazz. Quite nice. That's how I got in there. But still, look at the experience I had by being there, waiting for myself to come in with the jazz chorus or whatever it is. But we play an overture first, and there's the experience right there. William Tell was nothing after I was there 2 weeks. Understand? Because I was interested in my horn, and everything went with it, and it wasn't much different. The divisions of the measures and all that we did in the funeral marches, 3/4 time, 4/4 time, 12/8 time, the same. So everything's been done before, nothing new. But I listen to the best of music, which is just plain music. But you got to stand on your head and all that, but that's their business.
But do you think that the people that played in your early day played from the heart rather than from the mind?
I don't know what they did. I don't know where they blew it from. They could have took some beans that night, and you can tell where they blew it from. They'll all have been 40 years old, who knows? That's their business. But if it sounded good, I don't care where it came from. Understand?
Yeah.
Music is music. That's all I go by. I'm not such a technician. And that's the worst thing, put that on. The worst thing the public, and especially musicians, they ruin music. Musicians trying to play for them. So they can say, man, you out of this world. And they ain't even paid for to get in the damn concert or the hall. If you'd have gone and pleased them people that appreciate like Wonderful World, that's just a tame tune to your hip, if you call a hip musician. And they ask him to play it, you don't have the tone to play it. Still in all, if you don't blow your brains out, that's what ruined a lot of musicians through the years. And ruined music. Trying to please the other musician that he can't play nothing himself.
A very profound statement.
You bet your life. I like lost my lip trying to please these cats, standing there with their arms folded. What can you play? So I cut it out, so you get results, and that's what I want. People to dig what's supposed to. You're supposed to sing. You're supposed to relax. You're supposed to play, and them cats. When I looked around, I said, "They BSing." So I cut out from them. That's why you have a whole lot of jujitsu music and all that stuff. Now it's played out. They say, what is it about progressive jazz, the music of tomorrow? I said, we didn't go through all that. As long as it sounded good, from Buddy Bolin's time up to now. King Oliver, everything he played, you hear it now in 5-part brass and things. Dig that, else they wouldn't have had nothing to survive on. Don't be for King Oliver. Leave that. It goes all over the world. Every time they make a riff, it's Joe Oliver. Creator. How many trumpet players coming up today is a creator? Tell me. Name one. There's 10 billion trumpet players. Name one that you think's a creator.
You got me there.
And if you name one, I'll kiss your pocketbook.
Is there any particular Oliver that you like and have always liked?
Who?
Any particular King Oliver that you've always liked?
Everything he did. When I eat red beans and rice with him at his house, and he had a big tin bucket full of sweetened water, just sugar and water. He didn't want coffee and all that. Just a big bucket of sweetened water to rinse them beans down. His wife, Miss Oliver, made me a little bucket too, like the 3 little bears. I had my little bucket too. Because Joe Oliver, whatever he did, I want to do. All that was music. He never told me yet. He catch me on the street. All them cats too busy I'm around 17 years old. With my lesson, I run into him. The rest of the cats, they go into the Eagle Saloon. I ain't got time, boy. But Joe Oliver stops and no, you're dividing that wrong. Before you go into the saloon and have his drink. So you got to love him. They was too great. So like this little kid here. It was too great. Oh, he's just a little shaver, so what? But to me, the notes that came out of that horn, so beautiful, I know 1 million trumpet players would give anything in the world to sound like this kid sounded today in that airport. And that's what I listened to. The notes come out of his horn. Every note he hit meant something.
The tone's always been important to you, Louis.
The notes, too. It's got to come from his mind and his heart to make the notes that little boy played. And the average cat, they ain't thinking about how much I'm going to get for the gig tonight. They ain't got time to think of that. This boy ain't worried about nothing but the beauty. This thing, if he start playing and keep playing till he's about 17 years old, there you go. Nobody touch him. And all he could do is blow out an arrow. He didn't know it himself. You don't have to kill yourself to play good music.
There you go. And like I said, Enrico Tommaso, 7 years old, he played for Lewis at the airport that afternoon, and he's still one of the top trumpet players in England. Lewis actually invited him to every performance that week in England and gave him advice, such as make sure if you get married, make sure your wives know that the horn comes first before them. And don't play any of that jujitsu music. This is a 7-year-old kid. Kind of summing everything up, Armstrong does, again, a lot of the best footage that I have, these interviews, are from 1970. This is this year where Lewis is all over TV. And so he goes on the Mike Douglas show. We haven't seen this yet, Mike Douglas yet. And Douglas asks him to name the 5 most influential people of his life. And he talks about Lucille. He talks about his doctor that got him out of intensive care. He tells the same uncomfortable Joe Glazer story. He's still hanging on that. Glazer died the year before, so he's still obviously feeling it. And more about Oliver, just kind of summing up his life. Always something to learn, something profound.
Louis, I've really enjoyed this week, and I mean that honestly.
Me too.
I hate to see it come to an end.
Yeah, well, I'm telling you, I'll never forget it.
Let's just keep doing it, shall we?
Yes, I'll be right back. Next time you got an opening there, get me on in there.
We've been asking of our co-hosts and co-hostesses their 5 most admired people. I wrote down yours here. I'd like to ask you about them in the order that they're on this card. The first one, of course, is your wife, Lucille.
Yeah, well, quite naturally. We've been together about 28 years, and so beautiful. And I want to let you know that she was the one, and you got my doctor down there, you take Lucille, she's the one that nursed me back to health. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He put them good old fine hots under my belt and things I needed for 2 years and straightened me right up and had me in good shape so I could come down here and talk to you and things like that.
Oh, that's great.
And there's my doctor, Zucker.
Dr. Gary Zucker.
Dr. Gary Zucker.
Yeah.
That's the man that really brought me back to breathe again because I was in bad shape when he took hold of me and brought me down to intensive care. Very serious, when you go down there, you're getting ready to say bye-bye to the world, you know that. And this man brought me on in there, and after he finished, he took me out of intensive care and put me on the floor where all the VIPs was. My room was among them, and when I was so sick, they'd come to see me, and when I got a little better, he had me to go around and visit them, and we had a nice time. Then finally he called Lucille, my wife, who took me home. And for the 2 years I stayed out, she's the one that nursed me very beautifully, took good care of me. Yeah. And I still visit Dr. Zucker once a week, And I asked Dr. Zucker, I says, what about the horn? So he reminded me of the Lord when Gabriel getting ready to make some riffs on that horn. The Lord said, no, Gabe, not yet, Hold it, I'll tell you when, he used to tell me, So it won't be long now.
Oh, that's
But he let me warm up an hour before my supper, which I'm coming along nice. And the chops ain't never... Oh,
you still using that salve?
You bet your life. I look like a comedian when I go to bed. I have it all over my face. But still in all this nice, he said, ain't the time yet. So in a little while, I'll be blowing again because the chops are still there. They're still percolating. I can tell by the sound when I blow,
I see.
Well, all that was great. So there's 2 of my loved ones right there, Lucille and Dr. Zucker.
And we talked at some length about Joe Glazer, the man who managed you all these years.
That's my manager for over 40
Took good care of you, didn't he?
40 years, and one of the best friends I've had. When that bad colored boy down in the honky tonks that liked to hear me play the blues, and he knew I was going up north, to play with King Oliver.
Yeah.
First thing he said, you get you a white man that put a hand on your shoulder and say, that's my nigga. He meant from his heart. That's the only way you could tell. The people here had nothing, not too much educated, but whatever they said, it was hard. He wouldn't tell that to nobody else. He'd rather shoot you first,
Yeah.
But for me, and Joe Glazer was that man. Joe Glazer, that's no, you my man. And that's what
he took care of it.
Took care of me. I ain't asked nobody for nothing yet.
That's right. I hear they're not going to
have... It's fine, ain't looking too bad, is it?
Hey!
You got those sharp threads on all this week? I've been checking you out.
Okay.
You look sharp.
Okay. That shows, I mean, the Vance was there, wasn't it? So that's my man.
Louis showed me how to do this. He said, when you're singing and you get in trouble, you do that, but you don't ever cover the sound. He said, give it that.
Yeah.
From the side.
Don't worry about the lyrics. Oh, I do that in the studios anyways, man.
I want to talk about King Oliver.
Well, you know what King Oliver did for not only me, but all the young kids. He was the only one out of all the big shots in my days coming up would take time out to show you your lessons. All the rest of the guys want to go to the Eagle Saloon where all the big time musicians would hang out. But King would stop and help you. And when they closed down the Red and Light District in New Orleans where he played, and at 12 o'clock, she'd come up in the section where I played in Honky Tonks where they threw away the key.
I see.
And sit up there as my guest and listen to me play. And then listen very careful because I used to play like all them notes in the Auburn method. That's something like bop or something. Was,
you play a lot of notes.
I started about 3 notes and the rest of you don't know what the hell I was playing.
But he was listening.
Yeah, he said, boy, you play more lead on that horn. You got a good tone, so use it. Play more lead. And he's the one that changed me around into the nitty-gritty.
Yeah.
To play the right things.
And your mother. I've
and
saved
my
her
mother
till
was
last.
quite natural, you know, that's my heart.
You saved the best till last.
You have to bet your life because as a child come up, you know, around about 7 years old, I'll never forget my mother, she used to go out by the railroad tracks and pick up center leaves and pepper grass and a whole lot of stuff like that and boil it and make us drink it so we could have a good laxative. We couldn't afford no doctor. And she always said, boy, you stay physic-minded. She said, you may not never get rich, but you'll never have cancer and all that drastic disease if you take a porridge. Do you call it?
Keeps your legs in good shape, too, boy. Keeps you're running all the time there.
Well, okay, I ain't gonna tell you what else to keep it safe. But here I am. I never have all them kind of diseases and things like that. Yeah. So those are people, you can't forget them people. You know what I mean? I'm like the Russian fella, he had a beautiful memory because Kosygin, what that fella named?
Kosygin.
Kosygin and the House of Parliament, they sent him over here to pick up 5 languages from us Americans. Mm-hmm. And so he stayed over here about a week or 2, and he went back, and they stood up, and Kosygin, was that something? Kosygin, what was his name? He says, tell me what you remember, you know?
Yeah.
You say, well, man, woman, camera, automobile, aeroplane, and he broke it up. They stood up and cheered. Oh, God. So Kosygin said, well, how do you remember all that? He said, I kept it right up here, and I'll tell you when the program's over what he said.
Now, fortunately, I can tell you the punchline of that joke because Louis told it on a number of his tapes. Says the punchline is, I kept it all right up here in my ass. I honestly think he forgot he was on TV for a minute, got right to the punchline, and was like, I can't do that. We've had some serious stuff so far today, but we opened the door slightly on the laxative topic, so now we're just gonna blow it wide open. Wrong choice of words. Wrong. I'm sorry. This is the last time I get invited here, I know. They're gonna take my award back. About 2 months later, Louis is back on the David Frost Show, but the guest host is Orson Welles. And there's some New Orleans conversation and stuff, but this is peak Orson Welles, and Louis cannot resist. This is one of the most laugh-out-loud interviews from the summer of 1970.
Well, here we are with the great Satchmo, the one and only Louis, my old friend.
That's right.
It's been a long time, hasn't it?
You telling me?
No.
You know, the first time I dug you is when you had everybody scared to death on radio there. People are scared to go to bed and scared to go out.
I don't think you've ever been scared, Pops.
Well, I was scared that night. You scared that night.
Seriously, were you ever scared when you were a kid growing up in New Orleans?
Well, I tell you, we had some scary moments in New Orleans. Say, for instance, when we was newsboys, you know, and things like that, where we were getting a little alley and play little African dominoes for pennies, you know.
That's the worst you did?
No.
No.
That's the scared out there. Because when the cops would get behind us, don't look like your feet was carrying you fast enough, you know.
Yeah.
And you got to make one of them fences with one hand and all those days.
Yeah.
Those were scary days because in those days the cops would whip your head and then ask you your name afterwards, you know.
And you think that's something that's changed?
Well, I haven't been down there so long. I'm going to go down there and see next year. But it was all right. We was kids. We welcomed
Yeah, sure.
Because no cop in the world.
But you were a lucky man because you were born with an enormous talent. You see, you have, you know, you're a great musician.
Well,
what would it have been like if you hadn't been born with that?
Well, I didn't look at it that way. It was one of them things. I'd go to church with my mother, and you know, she'd sing tenor, and I'd join in with the chorus, and those are the things. And I look around. I was working for some Jewish people down there. I was 7 years old. They had Rags and Bones yard and sell Stone Cold little buckets
That's the
of
Cold
coal.
Cart Blues comes.
Yeah, and these go down the red light district. I mean, that's what you call it, Storyville. And I got a chance to deliver those little buckets of coal and hear all the fine musicians that played down there, such as Buck Johnson, King Oliver, and Manuel Perez, and Pickle, and all them boys. And as a kid, 7 years old, and I used to sing with Mother Kanoski when she rocked the little baby to sleep before I went home across the tracks, you know. And she'd sing, la, 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 see?
Really?
And I find myself up chiming in, helping with the family to rock the baby to sleep. And that's when they told me, say, man, son, you can sing a little, you know? So I said, well, maybe I can, because I go to the church with Mama and me and my
She
mother.
was singing.
Yeah, she sang tenor. And so, but when I went on the other side to one of them honky tonks, you know, and go to try to sit, and them cats gambling, man, don't you come in here with all that noise, you know what I mean? They didn't encourage me at all. But when I look around, I had a little quartet. We used to go around Rampart Street, you know. I was 12 years old, and we'd pass the hat.
Remember, we wrote a movie script about it, but they didn't let us make it. All about your life.
That's right. And they probably will.
Yeah, they will.
They usually do that after you die.
I think, no, you
And I'm fooling them all the time, you know.
I'll say you
I got a record coming out called This Black Cat Got 9 Lives, boys. Bring it up. Where do you get it? And of all people, the guy that's here right along with me at the time, Lorenzo Pack wrote it. And we look at each other, yeah, man, we got to do that. And sure enough, we're going to make a record.
What is the secret of that? Because you are going to star in the story of your life when it's made, even if they postpone it about 40 years.
Well,
the way you're going.
Would you think I'm staying well for now?
Yeah, what do you take?
Swiss Kriss.
I hear a reaction. I hear a reaction from the band. Now this is
everybody out there knows.
This is the elixir of life. Swiss Kriss.
Yeah.
That's the secret of Louis Armstrong. You've been sending it to me through the years. I never had the nerve to try it.
Well, you should get up some noise, Papa, because you do you a lot of good.
What's in it?
You got plenty of noise, you know. You a whole lot of good, man.
Pops, what's in it?
What's in it?
Yeah.
Well, this is what comes out of it. And I got the little card, you know, telling you what to do.
All right, with a little card, but you won't say what's in it?
Well, my slogan will tell you, leave it all behind you.
I'm not getting any more confident. You look great, but do you know anybody else who takes it?
Yeah, the world.
The world.
Everybody that ever met Louis Armstrong takes it.
Well, I've always been scared. All right, I'll try it.
I mean, the health stores are jumping, man.
You won't really say what's in it.
Well, there ain't nothing to say, nothing but herbs.
Yeah, but what kind of herbs?
I don't say herbs or herbs.
Herbs. I never knew which way to pronounce it.
Well, you know what that is. My mother used to pick all that stuff up by the railroad tracks, the same as the commercialized, no, they're not.
Yeah.
But Mama always said, son, stay physic-minded.
Yeah.
You
Well,
might not never get rich, but you'll always be healthier. You'll never have cancer and all them drastic ailments.
Well,
that's right. No?
As bad as things are today on every front.
And it's watch your weight.
It's great to feel. Let's not open that can of it.
Watch, here's a big word. It eliminates. I just dug that one, Vontae.
Well, it's great to have somebody feel so passionately about a laxative.
Well, what's any better to feel about it?
Well, it's with all the trouble and all the shouting, it's great to have.
You know what comes first, my life?
No, what's first?
The laxative, then my wife.
Well, what does she say about that?
She takes it too. And let me tell you one thing. She was the one that read Gail Hauser's book and introduced it to me. She kept on feeling so fine and everything. I was taking one of the drastic things at that time, you know, just make you sputter like a motorboat or something like that. But man, she looked, I said, what is it? And she kept me in the dark for about 3-4 days, and I saw that package and I snatched it and I tried it.
And you've never looked back?
Yeah, I had to look back that day because I crawled back to bed that first time. But I was happy. I'm determined, you know, just like a diet. If you go on a diet, and you can go with it 5 days, you're in business.
Yeah,
but the average person turns back before 5 days because they begin to get weak or
it's
something.
when you turn back after 50 years that you're
after 5 days, you're straight because chunks commence to fall in.
All right,
you know I used to weigh 250 pounds?
I remember when you did. I tell you, though, that I think we have given equal time to some big questions confronting us today and to your extraordinary regularity. I think we need a little more music. Are you saying something?
I think that's enough of that one. But it's not enough of the topic because we've come to the close. And again, this is from that BBC interview from '68. And this is, I just love this so much. Actually, I made this edit, my wife can vouch, this morning in the hotel room because it hit me. I'm like, this is too funny. I think it's funny. It's the reporters asking Lewis for advice on, how to be a great trumpeter and all this stuff. And Lewis's first reaction is, I won't spoil it, but it's just the most common sense answer. But then the guy rephrases it, and well, any children present? There's one expletive here, but it's still hysterical.
Listen, if I wanted to play trumpet tomorrow, what would you tell me to do?
Practice.
What else?
What else you gonna do? How you gonna get good if you don't practice? And if it ain't in you, gonna put it down and be a lawyer or somebody. You don't fight that. If it ain't in you, forget it.
Listen, you look very well. What's your advice to me as a young sort of cat? I'll never make it as far as you do. How will I get almost that far? How will I get anywhere near as far as you've got?
Well, this man can tell you, Miss Armstrong can tell you what I'm going to tell you. Shit. Plenty. You go to the bathroom and I had a big fat manager one time. She said, I don't need that laxative. All I do is take a little warm water or a little piece of lemon and I go to the bathroom. I say, yeah, but do you shit? That's what I'm talking about. Sputting like a motorboat ain't gonna help me. Things that mean so much. That was Teddy Wilson's theme song when he had his band in New York. And I never forgot it. And it's a true saying. The little things that mean so much. So many people are rushing for the big things, and when they get there, say, well, what happened? And if they get to it, they probably worn out or too old to enjoy it or something. Age don't mean nothing when you feel good. We don't think about no age. There's no hippie or no young cat or whatever you're going to call them going to feel any better than Satchmo. You understand? They say, well, what you do when your day is off? I say, what you do if you haven't seen your wife in 2 months? Go to a movie or something?
Take her to a movie.
You kidding? You got to be inventory time somewhere.
Yeah, inventory time. I think you could all draw your own conclusions there. So my last clip comes from the same interview, and it's kind of the summation. Lewis summing up. They ask him about the differences between people, and Lewis has a beautiful answer, but then one more emphatic closing piece of advice.
Do you think there's any difference between the people in different countries? You know,
there ain't no difference. We're all human, and we got the same thing. You white, I'm colored, I think, Ain't nobody told me any difference. What the hell? So, what you gonna? What's the difference? We all love music. We love the nice things in life. So the only difference between me and a lot of people, they probably don't remember as much as I do. To watch that stomach.
Watch that stomach. Words to live by Louis Armstrong, and remember the key to his success: shit. Plenty.
Do you think there's any difference between the people?
Thank you.
In different countries? You know,
There ain't no difference. We're all human. We got.
And that concludes Louis Armstrong in his own words. But I will be back. I will be back tomorrow at 4:30. I'll be back at 12:30 with Scott Wenzel paying tribute to Dan Morgenstern at 4:30. By request, people have been sending me requests right up till yesterday afternoon. If there's something you want to see, pull me aside. Tomorrow's the day. Anything you want, it's all for you. Thank you. Keep shitting.
Ladies and gentlemen, have a big hand for Ricky Riccardi. Reminding us to, like Louis Armstrong, let the love flow. So.
Yeah.
Forgive me, it was right there. Thank you. Well, please, he's this a very affable gentleman, and I want to just, you can talk amongst yourselves while I just let you, yes, while we just give you some announcements for tomorrow. At 11:30, we have Mr. Jim Thornton. At 12:30, we have Scott Wenzel, and once again, Mr. Ricky Riccardi. And at 1:30, we have Tom Rainick. And at 2:30, we have Mr. Matt Sakini. And 3:30, we have on Louis Armstrong and Black American Music, a conversation with Nicholas Payton and Melissa A. Weber. So that should be very exciting.